Maurice Von Jackson's mother, Cleopatra Von, is going through emotions as she listens to evidence in the shooting death of her son. Cleopatra heard state witness Xavier Stevenson say he drove the defendant, Quincy Wade, to the hospital the night both men exchanged gunfire.
The piercing sound of police sirens shattered the peaceful night in Columbus, Georgia, on September 7, 2021, as red and blue lights reflected off the windows of Patriot Place Apartments. The focal point of all this activity was Unit 2C's where a confrontation between two men had ended in gunfire and death. When Maurice Von Jackson opened his door that night, he had no idea he was about to become the victim in a tragic story of jealousy, rage, and fatal consequences. This wasn't just another homicide in Columbus. This was the death of a local rapper known as Lil Nuke, or Lord Nuke, at the hands of someone he considered a friend. All because of a woman carrying his killer's child.
Testimony began this morning in the trial of a man accused of murdering his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend.
Painted a picture of years' worth of domestic disputes and violence between Wade and Powell. At the time of the shooting, Powell was pregnant with Wade's child. However, she was seeing Jackson.
The bonds between these three individuals, Maurice, his girlfriend Chana Powell, and Quincy Wade, deteriorated into a deadly confrontation that would end with gunfire in a bathroom and a young artist's promising life cut short. Born in 1994 in Columbus, Georgia, Maurice Von Jackson grew up navigating the challenges of his hometown while harboring dreams bigger than his surroundings. His nickname had an innocent origin. Maurice was... I always called him Nuke, and it actually came from the little pacifier, the Nuke pacifier. He loved the pacifier, so that's how his name became Nuke. A childhood friend would later explain. His tracks like Trash Like Streets had gained over 42,000 views, while Real Me accumulated more than 20,000 views, numbers that showed his music resonated with local audiences. Maurice's path to music was influenced by personal trauma. In a rare interview months before his death, he revealed, "I got shot in my sleep, 7th grade." When asked when he knew he wanted to pursue music as a career, he replied, "When I was like I did a song called Grow Up. When I dropped it, it went crazy. Every time before I go to school, my mom used to cut me out, because I used to bump it every time," he remembered, describing his early passion. This early brush with violence became fuel for his artistic expression, with music serving as both creative outlet and therapy. Columbus sits along the Chattahoochee River on Georgia's western border with Alabama. In 2021, Columbus was experiencing a troubling rise in homicides, with violent crime statistics climbing steadily. The Patriot Place Apartments where Maurice lived weren't known for exceptional security measures. The building had seen better days. Security cameras functioned intermittently, and several exterior doors had reported locking problems that would later prove critical in the sequence of events leading to Maurice's death. Unit 207, located on the second floor, featured an open-concept living area that Maurice had personalized with music equipment and promotional posters. The bathroom where the confrontation would occur was small, approximately 8 by 6 feet, with a single door and no windows. A confined space with no secondary exit. This limited layout would create a situation where neither man could easily retreat once the confrontation began. By mid-2021, Maurice was involved with Chana Powell, a vibrant woman in her mid-20s. Their connection had evolved from casual dating to something more serious, with Chana spending most nights at Maurice's apartment. Friends described their relationship as passionate but volatile. Arguments would erupt over Maurice's late-night studio sessions and Chana's ongoing friendships with other men. Despite these conflicts, the couple maintained a strong physical connection and public image of solidarity. What Maurice didn't fully realize was the extent of Chana's ongoing connection with Quincy Wade. Before she began dating Maurice, Chana and Wade had been involved intermittently for nearly 2 years. Their relationship had officially ended, but the emotional ties weren't completely severed. Wade remained possessive of Chana even after their breakup, continuously messaging her and appearing unexpectedly when she was out. At 26, Wade moved in the same social circles as Maurice, though with a markedly different reputation. While Maurice channeled his energy into music, Wade was known for his quick temper and territorial attitude. Initially, they maintained a surface-level friendship, the kind formed through mutual acquaintances and occasional social gathering. They weren't close confidants, but there existed a baseline respect between them, at least outwardly. In the summer of 2021, everything changed. Chana discovered she was pregnant, and the timing created an immediate dilemma. Though she was publicly in a relationship with Maurice, private meetings with Wade had continued sporadically. Medical timing suggested Wade was the father, a fact Chana reluctantly confirmed to him during a tense conversation in July. Wade's reaction was immediate. He wanted Chana to leave Maurice and commit to raising their child together. For weeks, Chana kept the pregnancy secret from Maurice, torn between her current relationship and the biological father of her child. When Maurice eventually discovered the truth through mutual friends, the confrontation was explosive. He felt doubly betrayed. Not only was Chana pregnant by another man, but that man was someone he knew personally. Chana's decision to stay with Maurice despite carrying Wade's child set the stage for increasing hostility that would ultimately lead to tragedy at Patriot Place Apartments. Maurice and Chana Powell's relationship began like many others, with mutual attraction and shared dreams. Chana, drawn to Maurice's artistic ambition and local recognition, quickly became a fixture in his life. Their connection evolved rapidly from casual dating to something significant, with Chana spending most nights at Maurice's apartment at Patriot Place. Friends described their relationship as passionate but volatile. Arguments would erupt over Maurice's late-night studio sessions and Chana's ongoing friendships with other men. Despite these conflicts, the couple maintained a strong physical connection and public image of solidarity. Social media posts showed them relaxing together in the living room of Unit 207, captioned "Tuesday Night Chill," just hours before the fatal confrontation would occur in the same apartment. What made their relationship particularly complicated was Chana's romantic history, specifically her connection with Quincy Wade. Text messages recovered later by investigators revealed Maurice's initial shock and sense of betrayal. "You carrying his baby but sleeping in my bed. How long you been playing me?" The revelation was doubly painful. Not only was Chana pregnant by another man, but that man was someone Maurice knew personally. The weeks that followed were marked by Chana's attempts to navigate an impossible situation. According to her later testimony, she genuinely cared for Maurice and wanted to continue their relationship despite the pregnancy. "I told him it didn't change how I felt about him," she would later tell investigators. Maurice, despite his initial anger, made the decision to stand by Chana. This choice to remain in a relationship with a woman carrying another man's child would become a point of escalating tension with Wade. By August 2021, the situation had deteriorated significantly. Wade began calling Maurice directly, sometimes threatening him, other times attempting to reason with him man-to-man about stepping aside. Maurice refused, maintaining that he loved Chana regardless of the pregnancy's paternity. Wade's behavior toward Chana took on increasingly controlling dimensions. Phone records show he called her dozens of times daily, demanding she share her location at all times. He began questioning friends about her whereabouts when she was with Maurice, creating an atmosphere of constant surveillance. The early warning signs of potential violence appeared in multiple forms. Public encounters between the men grew increasingly hostile. At a local convenience store in mid-August, witnesses observed a heated exchange that nearly turned physical before friends separated them. During this confrontation, Wade reportedly told Maurice "That's my child she's carrying. You need to back off." Chana found herself in the impossible position of mediator, attempting to calm both men while protecting her own well-being and that of her unborn child. Text messages recovered by investigators revealed the strain she was under. "I can't keep doing this," she wrote to a friend. "They're both pushing me to choose and I'm scared of what happens either way." The situation had become increasingly volatile as summer turned to fall. Maurice confided to friends his growing concern about Wade's unpredictable behavior, even considering relocating to Atlanta to escape the mounting tension in Columbus. However, financial constraints and professional commitments kept him in the city, maintaining his residence at Patriot Place, where the security issues including malfunctioning door locks and intermittent security cameras would later prove fatal. What made this triangle particularly dangerous was Wade's inability to accept Chana's decision to stay with Maurice despite carrying Wade's child. In his mind, this represented not just romantic rejection, but a threat to his future role as a father. The pregnancy transformed what might have been a painful but ultimately manageable romantic rivalry into something Wade perceived as an existential threat to his identity and future. Friends of all three individuals later noted that opportunities for intervention were missed. Chana admitted to investigators she considered seeking a restraining order after Wade appeared at her workplace, but decided against it, believing it would make things worse. Maurice discussed the situation with his cousin, a former military police officer, who advised him to file a report documenting the threats. Phone records show Maurice called the non-emergency police line on September 3rd, but hung up before speaking with anyone. The apartment complex management had received complaints about Wade loitering in the parking lot, but took no substantive action beyond issuing verbal warnings. Two mutual acquaintances attempted to mediate a meeting between Maurice and Wade a week before the shooting, a meeting that Wade agreed to but never attended. By early September, the tension had reached a breaking point. Text messages between Maurice and his friends revealed his growing anxiety. "Jude won't leave us alone," he wrote 3 days before the shooting. "Always showing up, always calling. Got me sleeping with one eye open." Wade's digital footprint showed a man increasingly fixated on reclaiming both Chana and his unborn child. His social media accounts featured cryptic posts about taking back what's mine and eliminating obstacles. Phone records obtained after the shooting showed Wade called Maurice 27 times in the week before the murder. Most calls went unanswered, but those that connected featured Wade demanding Maurice bow out gracefully before things get ugly. The stage was set for a confrontation that would end with one man dead and another facing serious legal consequence. The love triangle that had begun with ordinary human emotions, attraction, jealousy, possessiveness, was about to transform into something far more tragic at Patriot Place Apartments. By late summer 2021, the uneasy triangle between Maurice Jackson, Chana Powell, and Quincy Wade had become increasingly volatile. What followed was a series of escalating confrontations that created a clear and alarming pattern, one that would culminate in the tragedy at Patriot Place Apartments. The public confrontations between Maurice and Wade grew increasingly hostile as the pregnancy progressed. At a local club, security footage captured them arguing near the entrance before bouncers separated them. Multiple witnesses confirmed Wade shouted, "You won't have her for long," as he was escorted outside. A bartender later told investigators that Maurice seemed visibly shaken after the encounter, remaining close to friends for the remainder of the evening. The territorial behavior soon escalated to Maurice's home territory. Wade appeared at the Patriot Place Apartments parking lot, following Chana as she arrived. Neighbors reported seeing Maurice confront Wade, resulting in a shoving match that dispersed only when someone threatened to call police. One resident recorded part of the altercation on her phone, capturing Wade yelling, "That's my baby she's carrying." The footage would later become evidence in the investigation. The situation took a more dangerous turn during a gathering at a mutual friend's home. Wade arrived uninvited after seeing Chana's car outside. He demanded to speak with her alone about their future. When Maurice objected, Wade displayed a handgun tucked in his waistband before being escorted out by other guests. This critical escalation, the first confirmed instance of Wade brandishing a weapon, went unreported to authorities. Just days before the fatal incident, Wade intercepted Chana outside her workplace. Their conversation became heated enough that her manager intervened and threatened to contact authorities if Wade returned. Surveillance cameras captured Wade pacing outside for nearly an hour after Chana returned to work. Wade began driving by Maurice's apartment complex multiple times daily, an intimidation tactic confirmed by both neighbors and security cameras. On one occasion, he followed Maurice to a recording session, waiting outside for 3 hours. This pattern of surveillance created a state of constant tension for both Maurice and Chana. Phone records obtained after the shooting showed Wade called Maurice 27 times in the week before the murder. Most calls went unanswered, but those that connected revealed the escalating nature of Wade's threats. A friend of Maurice who overheard one such call on speakerphone reported Wade saying, "I've tried to be respectful about this, but you're forcing my hand." Text messages between Wade and Chana showed his increasing possessiveness. "You're carrying my child, not his," read one message sent days before the shooting. "Every day you stay with him is disrespecting me and our baby." His messages alternated between professions of love and thinly veiled threats about handling Maurice. Chana later testified that Wade's behavior became increasingly controlling. He demanded she share her location with him at all times and began questioning her friends about her whereabouts when she was with Maurice. "I felt like I was being watched constantly," she told investigators. "He would somehow always know where I was, even when I didn't tell him." The pressure began affecting both Maurice and Chana's daily lives. Friends noticed Maurice checking windows and scanning parking lots before entering buildings, behaviors indicating his growing anxiety. Chana began missing work and withdrawing from social activity. Their relationship, once a source of happiness, now existed under a cloud of constant stress. Despite numerous witnesses to Wade's escalating behavior, formal intervention never materialized. The systemic failures that allowed the situation to reach its fatal conclusion were numerous and interconnected. Chana admitted to investigators she considered seeking a restraining order after Wade appeared at her workplace, but decided against it. "I was afraid it would make him snap," she explained. "I thought I could handle it, keep everyone calm until the baby came." This reluctance to involve authorities is common in such situations, where victims often fear escalation rather than protection. Maurice discussed the threats with his cousin, a former military police officer, who advised him to file a report documenting the pattern of intimidation. Phone records show Maurice called the non-emergency police line just 4 days before the shooting, but hung up before speaking with anyone. Friends later revealed he was concerned about potential retaliation if Wade was confronted by authorities. The apartment complex management had received multiple complaints about Wade loitering in the parking lot from various residents. Their response, issuing verbal warnings without documenting the incidents or enhancing security, proved woefully inadequate. The malfunctioning lock on a side entrance that Wade would eventually use to enter the building on the night of the shooting had been reported several times, but remained unrepaired. Friends of both men recognized the dangerous trajectory of the situation. 2 mutual acquaintances attempted to mediate a week before the shooting, organizing a meeting that Wade agreed to but never attended. "We thought if they could just talk it out, maybe things would calm down," one friend later told reporters, but Quincy never showed up, and after that things just got worse. As September 7th approached, all elements for tragedy were aligned. Wade had convinced himself that Maurice had stolen both his girlfriend and the chance to raise his child. His repeated rejections by Chana had transformed affection into possessive rage. Maurice, while outwardly defiant, had begun sleeping with a weapon nearby, telling friends he felt constantly on edge. Chana found herself trapped between 2 increasingly desperate men. The hours before the shooting showed mounting evidence of imminent conflict. Wade had called Chana repeatedly throughout the day, leaving voicemails with increasing urgency. Security footage from a convenience store showed Wade purchasing alcohol. His blood alcohol level would later be found just below the legal limit. Maurice, perhaps sensing the building tension, had reached out to a producer about relocating to Atlanta for a collaboration, discussing leaving Columbus for a while until things cooled down. That evening, as Maurice and Chana spent time together in his apartment, Wade was already formulating the plan that would end with gunfire in unison. The situation had evolved beyond a typical love triangle into something far more volatile, with each passing hour diminishing the likelihood of a peaceful resolution, as wounded pride, jealousy, and fear created an inevitable collision course. The events of September 7, 2021 would forever alter the lives of everyone connected to Unit 207 at Patriot Place Apartments. What began as an ordinary Tuesday evening would end with one man dead, another facing serious legal consequences, and a pregnant woman witnessing a tragedy that would haunt her for years to come. 6:30 p.m. Maurice returned to his apartment after meeting with a local producer about featuring on an upcoming track. Phone records show he called Chana twice during his drive home, discussing dinner plans and his meeting. 7:15 p.m. Chana arrived at Maurice's apartment with takeout food. Security footage captured her entering the building alone, carrying bags from a local restaurant. For the next few hours, the couple's evening proceeded without incident. At 8:40 p.m. they posted a photo on social media showing them relaxing in the living room, captioned "Tuesday Night Chill." Neighbors reported hearing music from Maurice's apartment, describing it as normal volume for a weeknight. 10:10 p.m. Chana texted a friend that Wade had been calling her repeatedly, but she wasn't answering. 10:58 p.m. Wade's car appeared on exterior cameras parking in a visitor spot far from its designated area, partially hidden by a large SUV. 11:12 p.m. Wade entered the building through a side door that should have been locked but had a malfunctioning mechanism, a defect reported multiple times to management. Maurice's one-bedroom apartment featured an open-concept living area and kitchen that he had personalized with music equipment and promotional posters. That evening, the apartment was dimly lit with only the kitchen light and a small lamp providing illumination. The bathroom where the confrontation would occur was small, approximately 8 to 6 feet, with a single door and no windows, a confined space with no secondary exit. 11:15 p.m. Wade knocked forcefully on apartment 207's door. When no one immediately answered, he began calling Chana's phone repeatedly. According to her testimony, she saw Wade through the peephole and immediately told Maurice, who was in the bathroom. Maurice instructed Chana not to open the door, but Wade's persistent knocking escalated to kicking. Fearing he would break the door down, Chana ultimately unlocked it, hoping to defuse the situation. Instead, Wade pushed past her into the apartment, demanding to know where Maurice was. His agitated state was evident, sweating profusely, speaking rapidly, and repeatedly touching his waistband where Chana could see the outline of a weapon. When Wade heard movement in the bathroom, he headed directly toward it, ignoring Chana's pleas to leave. She described him as a man on a mission who couldn't be talked down. Wade pushed open the bathroom door to find Maurice standing near the shower. According to Chana's testimony, Maurice had his phone in one hand and reached behind the toilet tank with the other, retrieving a 9mm handgun he kept hidden there. "You know why I'm here," Wade reportedly said, his own weapon now visible at his side. The small bathroom created an immediate tactical problem. Neither man could maneuver without coming within arm's reach of the other. With the door as the only exit, Wade effectively blocked Maurice's escape route. Chana positioned herself in the hallway, screaming for both men to stop. A neighbor who overheard the commotion reported hearing a woman yell, "Please don't do this," followed by male voices in heated exchange for approximately 30 seconds. The men faced off in this confined space. Maurice backed up until the shower wall prevented further retreat while Wade remained in the doorway, both men with weapons drawn but not yet raised. What happened next remains partially disputed. In her statement, Chana claimed Wade raised his weapon first, prompting Maurice to fire defensively. Forensic evidence later confirmed Maurice fired the first shot, which missed Wade and lodged in the bathroom door frame. Wade immediately returned fire. In the confined bathroom space, the gunshots were deafening. Neighbors reported hearing 5 to 7 distinct shots in rapid succession. Both men emptied their weapons in the exchange. Maurice's gun jammed after 3 rounds while Wade fired all 6 bullets from his revolver. The physical evidence indicated that neither man took careful aim. This was frantic, instinctive shooting at extremely close range. The bathroom mirror shattered, sending glass fragments across the room. Bullet holes punctured the shower curtain, toilet tank, and walls. Gunpowder residue coated surfaces and shell casings scattered across the tile floor. During the exchange, Maurice was struck once in the upper chest. The bullet entered just below his right collarbone, tore through his lung, and severed a major artery before lodging near his spine. Medical examiners later classified this as a wound that would have been fatal even with immediate medical attention. Maurice collapsed against the bathtub, his weapon falling from his hand. Blood quickly soaked his white t-shirt as he struggled to breathe. Chana rushed to his side, applying pressure to the wound while screaming at Wade to call an ambulance. Maurice remained conscious for approximately 2 minutes after being shot. According to Chana, his final words were, "Tell my mom I love her." His breathing grew increasingly labored as blood filled his damaged lung. By the time first responders arrived, Maurice had lost consciousness. After the shooting stopped, Wade stood motionless, his empty weapon still pointed at Maurice. According to Chana, Wade appeared shocked by the outcome, repeatedly saying he shot first, as if justifying the situation to himself. Wade fled the apartment before police arrived, driving away in his car. Security cameras captured his departure at 11:28 p.m., 8 minutes after the shooting began. First responders arrived at 11:32 p.m., finding Chana hysterical and covered in Maurice's blood. Paramedics immediately began resuscitation efforts, but pronounced Maurice dead at the scene at 11. Police secured the apartment as a crime scene, documenting 9 bullet holes in the bathroom walls and collecting both weapons. By midnight, detectives had identified Wade as the shooter based on Chana's statement and building security footage. An APB was issued, and Wade was located and arrested at his mother's house at 3:15 a.m. on September 8. When taken into custody, Wade's first words to officers were, "He pulled on me first." The man who had once been part of Maurice's social circle now faced charges that would forever link their names in a story of jealousy, violence, and tragic consequence. Columbus Police Department dispatched 4 units to Patriot Place Apartments, following multiple 911 calls reporting gunshots. Officer James Mendez was first on scene, securing the apartment entrance while waiting for backup. Detective Sandra Lopez took charge of the investigation, conducting the initial interview with Chana, while paramedics confirmed Maurice's death. Officers canvassed neighboring apartments, collecting statements from 7 residents who heard the altercation. 2 witnesses confirmed seeing Wade's vehicle in the parking lot, providing a partial license plate that matched his registration. By 1:30 a.m., Captain Robert Henderson had authorized a citywide search for Wade, deploying officers to known associates' residences and places he frequented. The crime scene unit spent 6 hours processing the apartment. They recovered both firearms, Maurice's jammed 9mm and Wade's .38 revolver, documenting their positions and collecting samples for ballistics testing. Technicians photographed and mapped 9 bullet impact points in the bathroom, determining trajectories that supported Chana's account of both men firing while standing. Digital evidence proved equally valuable. Investigators collected Maurice's phone containing threatening text messages from Wade, dated hours before the shooting. Surveillance footage from the apartment complex, though fragmented due to maintenance issues, clearly showed Wade's unauthorized entry and hasty departure. The medical examiner recovered the fatal bullet during Maurice's autopsy, confirming it matched Wade's weapon. Toxicology reports indicated Maurice had no substances in his system, while Wade's later testing revealed alcohol levels just below the legal limit. Wade was arrested at his mother's residence at 3:15 a.m. on September 8. Body camera footage showed him surrendering without incident, immediately stating, "He pulled on me first." District Attorney Eleanor Simmons filed formal charges on September 10. Second-degree murder, criminal trespass, home invasion, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during commission of a felony. At his arraignment, Wade appeared before Judge Michael Tanner, who denied bail, citing the violent nature of the offense and potential flight risk. Wade's court-appointed attorney, Derek Franklin, entered a preliminary not guilty plea pending review of evidence. The prosecution built their case around Wade's documented threats and unauthorized entry, arguing these elements demonstrated premeditation. D.A. Simmons told reporters, "This wasn't a chance encounter. Mr. Wade deliberately sought out the victim with a loaded weapon and violent intention." By December 2021, Wade's defense strategy crystallized around Georgia's self-defense statutes. Attorney Franklin assembled a team including ballistics expert Dr. Helen Miyazaki, who questioned the prosecution's sequence of events. The defense constructed an alternative narrative. Wade entered to discuss the pregnancy with Chana when Maurice unexpectedly brandished a weapon, forcing Wade to defend himself. They emphasized that Maurice fired first, as confirmed by forensics. "My client faced an armed man in a confined space with no escape route," Franklin argued in pre-trial motions. Prosecutors countered that self-defense claims were invalidated by Wade's illegal entry and documented threat. But the trial, which began 2 years after the shooting in September 2023, revealed surprising inconsistencies. Chana Powell's testimony painted a picture of years of domestic disputes and violence between herself and Wade. However, the defense challenged her credibility, noting she had initially told police nothing about Wade threatening her with his gun, a critical detail that appeared only in later statements. When Miss Powell was first interviewed and talked about this incident, she didn't say nothing about Miss Wade, who would have a gun on her, put it to her stomach, put it to her head, say, "I'm gonna shoot you and the baby." That's all cap. That's all made up. The defense argued. After a week-long trial and jury deliberation lasting 6 hours, Wade was acquitted on all felony charges: malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault and home invasion. The jury found him guilty only of criminal trespassing, a misdemeanor carrying a maximum 1-year sentence. Juror number 4 later explained anonymously to local media, "The prosecution couldn't overcome the fact that Maurice fired first. While we agreed Wade shouldn't have entered the apartment, once a gun was pointed at him, he had limited options." Judge Tanner sentenced Wade to 12 months with credit for time served during pre-trial detention. Having already spent nearly 2 years in custody, Wade was released immediately following sentence. The verdict shocked many in Columbus, particularly within the local music community, where Maurice had been respected. His supporters organized a peaceful demonstration outside the courthouse, many wearing shirts printed with his music logo and demanding justice for Lil Nuke. Local venues held memorial concerts featuring artists who had collaborated with Maurice, with proceeds benefiting his family. Others accepted the jury's decision, acknowledging the legal complexities of self-defense claims. Several community leaders called for improved conflict resolution programs, citing the case as evidence that interpersonal disputes required earlier intervention before reaching violent conclusions. The case highlighted several systemic issues beyond the immediate tragedy. Security lapses at Patriot Place prompted city inspectors to audit apartment complexes throughout Columbus, resulting in citations for inadequate safety measures at multiple properties. Domestic violence prevention advocates use the case to illustrate how triangulated relationships create heightened risk factors. Law enforcement implemented enhanced protocols for responding to reported threats, especially regarding romantic conflicts. The police department's community liaison office created materials explaining how and when to seek protection orders. Perhaps the most poignant aftermath was the child born to Chana Powell, a child who would grow up never knowing either the man who raised their mother's other children or their biological father in any meaningful way. The true victims of this tragedy extended far beyond those directly involved on that fatal night. Maurice Jackson's legacy deserves to be more than his final moment. His music continues to resonate with listeners, his story a stark reminder of how quickly unresolved conflicts can escalate beyond control. Through understanding his story, perhaps others might avoid a similar fate.